Get ready for a journey through time and space, straight to one of the most epic moments in human history. Today, we'll relive the first live broadcast from the moon by Apollo 11 in 1969. We won't just recount the facts, but immerse ourselves in the adrenaline, ingenuity, and emotion that connected billions of people to an event that seemed straight out of science fiction. We'll discover interesting facts about the technology of the time, the crucial decisions behind the scenes, and the monumental impact of this broadcast on the world. Prepare to feel the thrill of that one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind, as if you were there. A decade of dreams and the space racy image in the world in the 1960s. It was an era of great transformation, Cold War political tensions, and growing optimism fueled by scientific advances. Amidst this backdrop, one of the greatest competitions in history unfolded, the space race between the United States and the Soviet Union. It wasn't just a technological contest, it was an ideological battle, demonstration of which system capitalism or communism could achieve the greatest feats. It all began with the Soviet Union's launch of Sputnik 1 in 1957, the first artificial satellite to orbit the Earth. The shock to the United States was immense. Suddenly, the USA seemed to be ahead on the technological frontier. The American response came with the creation of NASA in 1958 and President John F. Kennedy's bold promise in 1961. We choose to go to the moon in this decade, and to do other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. This declaration ignited the American spirit. Project Apollo, conceived to put a man on the moon, became the national priority, mobilizing resources, brilliant minds, and unprecedented fervor. Millions of dollars and thousands of engineers, scientists, and technicians worked tirelessly to make this dream a reality. The journey to Apollo 11 was fraught with challenges and tragedies. Early space programs, such as Mercury and Gemini, were crucial for testing the technologies needed for long-duration spaceflight, in-orbit maneuvers, and space rendezvous. Astronauts risked their lives on each mission, pushing the boundaries of what was known. The Apollo 1 tragedy in 1967, where 3 astronauts died in a fire during a pre-launch test, was a devastating blow. The pain was immense, but the determination to continue the mission persisted, with lessons learned being incorporated to ensure the safety of future missions. As engineering and science advanced, so did long-distance communication. Intercontinental radio transmissions were already in use, and television was becoming a mass medium in many homes. However, transmitting live images from a location as distant as the moon presented monumental technical challenges. Video transmission requires much greater bandwidth than audio, and the signal had to travel hundreds of thousands of kilometers. Engineers at NASA and partner companies such as Westinghouse and RCA faced the challenge of creating cameras and transmission systems that could operate in the harsh environment of space, withstand radiation and extreme temperature fluctuations, and, most importantly, send acceptable quality images back to Earth. The solution they found was a slow-scan television CCTV camera. Unlike conventional television cameras that transmit 30 frames per second, the Apollo CCTV camera sent only 10 frames per second. This significantly reduced the bandwidth required for transmission, making it feasible across the lunar distance. The images were black and white and low resolution, but they were live images of the moon. Consider the complexity. The signal had to be picked up by the spacecraft's antenna, transmitted to Earth, picked up by large satellite dishes around the world such as those in Goldstone, California, Honeysuckle Creek, Australia, and Parkes, Australia, and then converted from CCTV to the NTSC television standard that ordinary TVs could display. It was a veritable dance of technology and global coordination. The anticipation surrounding the Apollo 11 mission, launched on July 16, 1969, was palpable. The 3 astronauts, Neil Armstrong, Edwin, Buzz, Aldrin, and Michael Collins, were modern-day heroes, prepared for the greatest adventure in history. While Collins orbited the moon in the command module Columbia, Armstrong and Aldrin would descend to the surface in the lunar module Eagle. The entire world was glued to their televisions. People gathered in homes, bars, public squares, and even appliance stores to catch every moment. It wasn't just about science or politics. It was about humanity's ability to go beyond, to touch the unattainable. One small step, one giant leap in the waves. July 20, 1969, marked the climax of the Apollo 11 mission. The lunar module Eagle separated from the command module Columbia and began its descent toward the lunar surface. At mission control in Houston, the tension was palpable. Every word of the astronauts was listened to with rapt attention, and the entire world followed their every heartbeat. The descent was full of suspenseful moments. Computer alarms blared, and Armstrong had to take manual control to avoid a rocky area, landing the Eagle with only seconds of fuel remaining. Finally, Armstrong's historic words echoed, "Houston, tranquility base here. The Eagle has landed." Relief and euphoria exploded throughout mission control and the homes of billions of people, but the big moment of the live broadcast was yet to come. Hours after landing, Armstrong and Aldrin prepared for the extravehicular egress, AVA, the famous walk on the moon. The slow scan camera was key to sharing this moment with humanity. It was mounted on the lunar module and would activate as soon as the hatch was opened. The challenge was immense. The camera needed to function perfectly in the vacuum of space, under intense sunlight and extreme temperatures. The video signal, despite having been simplified for broadcast, was still a technological feat. It would be beamed from the moon to the Deep Space Network (DSN) antennas on Earth, which would convert it into a format broadcast on conventional television networks. At 10:56 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time on July 20, 1969, Neil Armstrong opened the hatch and began descending the lunar module's ladder. That small step, seemingly insignificant at first glance, was about to become an unprecedented global event. And then came the moment that stopped the planet. The grainy, black and white image of a space boot touching lunar dust appeared on television screens around the world. It was a raw image, downscaled and adapted to CCTV broadcast quality. To today's eyes, it may seem rudimentary, but for the time, it was pure magic. Neil Armstrong's voice, delayed by a few seconds due to the distance the signal had to travel, echoed, "One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind." These words, accompanied by that iconic image, cemented the event in history. The broadcast wasn't limited to Armstrong's arrival. Buzz Aldrin also descended to the lunar surface, and cameras captured his activities, the collection of samples, and the planting of the American flag. The images, though shaky and noisy, had undeniable power. They were visual proof that humanity had accomplished the impossible. For many, watching that broadcast was an almost religious experience. The barrier of distance was broken, and outer space ceased to be an abstract concept and became a tangible reality, visible in their own homes. It was a triumph not only of science, but of the human capacity to dream and connect. The global impact and the visual revolution. Apollo 11 broadcast from the moon was not just a television event. It was a cultural and social phenomenon that resonated in every corner of the planet. Suddenly, the entire Earth united in a single moment of awe and wonder. The political and ideological boundaries so prominent during the Cold War seemed to vanish for a few hours. Imagine the scenes. Families gathered in front of black and white televisions, neighbors crowded together, schools interrupted so children could watch. In some places where television was still rare, radios broadcast commentary frantically, describing the scenes that few could see, but everyone could imagine. It was the democratization of the space experience. The power of the image of Armstrong on the moon, though low resolution, had an undeniable authenticity. It wasn't a recreation, a photograph, or a film. It was live. This real-time presence created an unprecedented emotional connection. People felt they were witnessing history unfolding before their eyes. This was the true revolution in communications there. The ability to broadcast an event of such magnitude and distance to a global audience in real time. The event reinforced belief in scientific and technological progress. It inspired a generation of young people to pursue careers in science, engineering, and space exploration. For many, the moonwalk symbolized the pinnacle of human ingenuity and proof that there was no limit to what humanity could achieve. The cultural impact was immense. The phrase, "one small step," became one of the most quoted aphorisms in history. Films, songs, books, and works of art were created inspired by the mission. The very concept of live streaming took on new meaning, demonstrating the power of media to create unifying events for society. The live stream from the moon was not just an engineering feat. It was a triumph of the human will to share and witness. It set a new standard for what was possible in terms of global communication and paved the way for future broadcasts of historical, sporting, and cultural events that we now take for granted. Every time we watch something live from a distant place, we are connecting with the legacy of that July day in 1969. From moon dust to the digital revolution after Apollo 11, the lunar program continued with 5 more missions that landed on the moon. Each brought new discoveries and, of course, more transmissions, some of them using color cameras. Starting with Apollo 15, color television was becoming more common in homes, and the experience of seeing the moon in color was even more spectacular. The technology developed for the Apollo missions had a profound impact on numerous industries beyond space. Advances in the miniaturization of electronic components, batteries, communication systems, and software were crucial to the development of many technologies we use today. The legacy of communication. Apollo 11's main lesson for modern communication was its proof that large-scale events could be shared globally and in real time. This changed the way news was consumed and how historical events were experienced. The Internet, which began to be developed around the same time ARPANET, would also indirectly benefit from these advances in networking and communications. The idea of connecting computers globally, sharing data and information, had parallels with the communications network necessary for the space program. The space race may have waned after the Cold War, but its legacy in modern communication is undeniable. That grainy image of the moon, transmitted from 384,400 kilometers away, was not just a scientific milestone. It was the embryo of our era of instant connectivity, the celestial legacy, and the connections of the futureth legacy of the first live broadcast from the moon transcends technology and science. It has become a symbol of optimism, global unity, and the human capacity to overcome limits. In a world often divided, the image of Armstrong on the moon was a reminder that, as a species, we are capable of great things when we work together toward a common goal. That moment in 1969 was a catalyst for the imagination. For many children of the time, looking at the moon was never the same. What was once a distant and mysterious object now bore the footprints of humanity. This fascination fueled not only continued space exploration, but also the pursuit of knowledge and innovation in all fields. The Apollo 11 broadcast also gave us a unique perspective on our own planet. The famous images of Earthrise, taken on previous missions, and the blue marble, taken in 1972 by Apollo 17, showed the fragility and beauty of our home in the vast cosmos. These images became icons of the environmental movement and the realization that we are all passengers on the same spaceship Earth. Looking ahead, live streaming from space continues to evolve. Projects like the International Space Station (ISS) continuously transmit images of Earth and astronaut life. Upcoming missions to the moon, like the Artemis program, promise to return humanity to the lunar surface, this time with high-definition cameras, perhaps even 360-degree cameras, and virtual reality, allowing for even greater immersion for viewers. The Apollo 11 live stream from the moon was more than a technological event. It was an act of communication in its purest and most powerful form. It united humanity, inspired generations, and redefined what is possible when science, engineering, and human will combine. It is a legacy that continues to propel us toward the stars, while reminding us of the incredible power of connection that technology affords us. We've reached the end of our interplanetary journey, reliving Apollo 11's first live broadcast from the moon in 1969. We've traveled from the space race of the 1960s, fueled by Kennedy's dream, to the technological challenges of slow-scan cameras and the palpable tension of the landing. We've felt the thrill of Armstrong's small step and seen how a grainy black and white image united 600 million people in a moment of global awe. The Apollo 11 broadcast wasn't just a technical feat, it was a catalyst for modern communication, proving that the impossible could be shared instantly with the world. It reminds us of the power of human collaboration, science, and engineering to turn audacious dreams into reality, and how technology can connect us to extraordinary events, no matter the distance. If you felt the emotion and inspiration of this story, please like this video to help us reach more curious minds. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our next explorations of historical and technological milestones, and activate the bell to be always notified. And to continue your journey of knowledge, click on the video now on the screen to delve into another fascinating discovery. Thank you so much for embarking with us on this lunar adventure. May curiosity continue to guide us.